Our first speaker is Shelby from Columbus Academy. She is a part of the Ohio State Wexner program. They have over 25 strength coaches across Central Ohio. Jared is one as well. And they're doing really good work in helping get strength coaches to schools that might not be able to afford one or might not be able to, have multiple on the staff. So Shelby's going to be presenting on training the female athlete. And without further ado, Shelby.
Hi everybody, how are you? Good. Can you all hear me comfortably?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. Microphones make me nervous. I'd just rather use my strength coach voice. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So yes, I'm Shelby Reichel. I am a strength coach with the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, presenting on training the female athlete today. But I like to lead with gratitude. Okay. I like to lead with gratitude, so I have to say my thank yous first. First and foremost, I want to thank Jake and Stray Dog for putting on this conference and giving me the opportunity to speak. I want to thank the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center and specifically my boss, Dan Inglis, right here. He's really awesome, and so are the people that I work with. And I have a lot of amazing opportunities being employed through Ohio State that I wouldn't have otherwise. I want to thank Jason Singleton, the guy in the Viking horns right here, and my Columbus Academy family. So Jason's my athletic director at Columbus Academy, and he has been super supportive from day one. He's incredible. And I have a lot of support at Columbus Academy in general, which makes that program what it is. I'm also contracted to Capital University. I work with women's basketball and women's volleyball there. So here's my volleyball girls, and there's my basketball girls. And their coaches, Camille McPherson and Rosanna Segura, who are both awesome. Very thankful to work with their athletes and their programs. Super wonderful. So I love that. Coach Bam, all the way on the left, my high school volleyball coach. He is the reason that I am any sort of coach today at all. And then finally, best husband in the world, Kyle, who came. And best dog in the world, Buddy. So, we're talking about training the female athlete. I want to give you guys my perspective because I think that we all know that as strength coaches, everything is situation dependent, right? And so I want to give you a little bit about where I'm coming from to give context to what I'm going to say. So like I said, work for the Wex Med Center. I'm contracted to my schools. Columbus Academy is a K-12, a private K-12, and then Capital University is a small D3, if you're unfamiliar. I am self-proclaimed different from most girls. Growing up, I was a tomboy, right? So I've actually had to do a lot of learning in this area as well. I wasn't completely comfortable with just coaching or training any and all female athletes. I identify with some of them, like we bond really quickly, and others I'm still learning how to do that. And then as far as coaching experience, so I say that, but I have been coaching athletes, specifically female athletes, ages 8 to through high school since I was 17 years old and had absolutely no business doing so. But thankfully I've had some great mentors to end up where I am. So Columbus Academy, it's a small private school. I have about 500 athletes in total, and I'm sure some of you are laughing because you might see 500 athletes in a day. Roughly 80% of our school's population plays a sport. And our school is unique because it's extremely academically challenging. Like, our kids go to that school because they want to get into Harvard, Yale, Stanford. Like, that's why they're at that school. So it is a little bit different. Almost all of my kids are type A, high achiever personalities, which is why we get along so well. And for the most part, it makes them really fun to coach because they care a lot about every single detail and doing things right. The other end of that spectrum is that sometimes I have to save them from themselves, right? Perfectionism is real, and sometimes it's harmful. And then this is also a unique situation. I don't think very many people get to work with grades 6 through 12 at their school, but I do. Couple limitations of what I'm going to share. First of all, I'm going to lean heavily on the ROCKS report. ROCKS stands for Ruling Our Experiences. It's a nonprofit organization actually founded in Columbus, Ohio. By Lisa Hinkleman in 2011. Is anybody familiar with Ruling Our Experiences or ROCKS? Okay. So yeah, some schools, a lot of schools have Ruling Our Experiences programming. So ROCKS as a whole basically has 2 arms. One arm is a research arm. They conduct survey-based research on girls grades 5 through 12 in a representative sample population of the whole United States, which is really cool. And then the second arm is that they take that research and they develop programming to put into middle schools and high schools that's supposed to serve observe and improve what they see when conducting the research. Does that make sense? And so they put out 2 big reports, one in 2017, one in 2023 on girls, and I'm going to use a lot of that to inform what I'm talking about today. And so I am not saying that the things I am sharing about girls are not also happening with boys. Sadly, we don't know because I'm unaware of any research that's kind of an equivalent for them. And I'm definitely not saying that this presentation speaks for all girls. I want you guys to take what I say and please apply it to your situation and your athletes. So I've heard, presentations on female athletes at a few conferences over the years, and I feel like when you present on female athletes, it's as if like presenting on male athletes is like the norm, and then you deviate from the norm in order to train female athletes. And so I wanted to start with not what's different or what's the same, because there are a lot of similarities when you're just training athletes in the weight room, regardless of whether they're male or female. Female athletes absolutely want to be pushed. They do want to compete. They do want to be held to a high standard. And they should be doing the same exercises and progressions as our male athletes, and they can adapt to training just as well. So there are a lot of similarities that we should start with when training athletes in general. But there are some differences, and those differences are important as well. We're going to go through each one of these. Female athletes may not want to be pushed in the same way as male athletes. They may be better off competing against themselves in the weight room specifically than against their peers. They may be less likely to coach each other or hold each other accountable verbally in the weight room. They may not be comfortable in the weight room with boys, and they may be underfueled more often compared to their male counterparts. So I said that girls may not want to be pushed in the same way as a male athlete, and that they might not be comfortable in the weight room with boys. Well, why? I think this is changing for the better, which is awesome, but I do believe that weight rooms are still largely viewed as a male space, and they definitely historically have been a male space. And so it's hard for our girls to just naturally feel at home in there. Telling them that this is their space is awesome and we should do that, but they're going to have to experience that in order for their minds to actually change that. For them to really believe that and own that this is not a male space that I'm a guest in, but that it's just as much my space as theirs. They need to be in there and have some experience in there to feel that. And overall, their confidence may be lower than their male peers. So this is, if you go back a little bit, sorry, from the ROPS report, even if you can't see anything other than the pink and green lines, that's fine. Across the bottom, you have grade level, 5th starting on the left and 12th starting on the right. The green line represents the percentage of girls who would describe themselves as confident in 2017. And the pink line is the percentage of girls who would describe themselves as confident in 2023. So you can see in 2017 it definitely wasn't ideal, but it has gotten worse. Confidence in girls has dropped overall as a whole. So what do we do about this, right? What can we change? What can we impact? Number one, I typically am going to have private conversations over call-outs. So what does that mean? My weight room's relatively small. I can see every rack from one vantage point. And it depends on the team, the experience level, a lot of things. But sometimes I'll just call like, hey, so-and-so, squat a little bit deeper. Hey, so-and-so, great pull-up. Whether it's good or bad, I might just give a shout-out. For my girls who are new to the weight room, or my younger kids who are new to the weight room, and for people that I know are less comfortable in there, I'm going to walk over to that rack to say the same thing. And so that the people that they are training with are the only people that hear that. So if you think it's okay to say it out loud, right? It doesn't need to be whispered, it doesn't need to be a secret. But I'm going to make sure that it's a smaller group that sees that. And like I said, it's not just for bad things. Some of my female athletes are uncomfortable being called out for good things because then they feel like everyone's staring at them. And that's like the worst fear of a teenage girl, right? Teach them and be patient with them. I've had a lot of girls, especially in middle school, that walk around and they look like they're doing a whole lot of nothing, and their coaches kind of say the same thing. And I walk over to them and I just say, hey, how's it going? Like, make sure you know their name, say hi to them, chat with them, and ask them, what are you working on right now? Like, what exercises are you working on? And more often than not, those girls are just scared to do things because they're afraid that what they're going to do is going to be incorrect or improper for them. And so I'm always going to go at it from that angle, that they just aren't confident enough yet to complete what I'm asking them to complete, as opposed to them just being lazy or not wanting to do what we're doing. So the more you teach them, the more comfortable and confident they are doing the movements, the more likely they are to execute them. Encourage and build them up a lot. I'm always giving even more compliments to my girls probably than I do my boys, although I love encouraging and building up all of my athletes, especially if my girls are newer to the weight room. I'm going to be very specific about what form things they're doing right. Those are great squats. Those are great presses because of this. That's a great setup position on your rows because of this. And when you're specific like that, like their eyes light up and they get the biggest smiles and they love that. I tell them specifically and often, like when it comes up, like this space is yours, the weight room is yours, you belong here. So in the fall every year, football lifts like right after school. And this past fall, the team that came in after them was a girls team. Now these are girls, I've been at my school, this was my 5th year, so this was their 5th year lifting with me. They were our high school team. They would approach the weight room doors right as the boys football team was finishing, and boys football was doing shout outs, which I'll talk about in a second. And they're loud and they're clapping and they're yelling and all of that, and the girls get these big old, big eyes, big looks on their faces, like those boys are so loud. And I'm like, guys, like this is your space too. It's just as much your space. I don't care how much they lift. I don't care how loud they are. Like, you get to own this space too. And it really does change how they feel about it. So tell them that explicitly. Shout out to something that I have loved for all of my athletes, but I think has really helped our girls learn to compliment one another and accept the compliment. So we have a wheelie whiteboard in the weight room, and it's always out, and it has a shout out section that just says shout outs, and then it's blank. We've got markers up there. And during the session, girls who want to give shout outs to somebody, they walk up, they write the name of the person and what they did well. At the end, we bring it in to break down, right? We do shout outs first. So whoever's giving the shout out says, Christina had awesome hand cleans today. Priya was a great teammate to me today. She helped me, she spotted me, she helped me with some form stuff, and we all clap for every shout out. And it's just like a really cool way to end our sessions. Like I said, I do that with all my teams, but I think it's been especially helpful in building the confidence of our female athletes. When possible, give girls their own opportunity to train. I know that that's not always possible, and that oftentimes they might need to share the weight room with a boys team, or like for me, I have to go at off-season training sessions, and I'm sure some of you do as well. When possible, give them the weight room to themselves, and when not, this winter I had a girls-only group, 2 days a week. 1 day a week they had to share with boys wrestling, but I told them like these 4 reps, this part of the weight room is yours. Like this space is yours, and they were like totally fine with that. They loved that, and the only thing I did give them their own space was sand, right, and make sure that they had what they needed. I said that girls might be better off competing against themselves in the weight room than against each other. Why? My athletes are going to come into the weight room every day having competed all day at school. They're super worried about their academics. They're competing for president of this club and treasurer of that club and all of these things that they want to put on their resumes. And then they're going to leave the weight room and they're going to go to practice and they're going to compete against each other for a spot, for playing time, for captainship, whatever it is. So if I'm not in between place where they get to compete against themselves and get better than who they were yesterday or what they were yesterday, and do that cooperatively and build each other up in that space, I'm okay with that. And I also think it's possible for them to take that cooperative competition out with them to the field. No, you can go back, sorry. So the other thing is that girls struggle with body image, and social media plays a huge part in that. Rox reports that 65% of girls say that how they feel about their body makes them less confident. And the more they're on social media, the more true that becomes. I think that the weight room is a space where this can be amplified drastically because we are looking at bodies, we're paying attention to bodies, we're paying attention to what bodies look like when we're lifting weight, flexing, whatever, etc. So I think we need to be careful how we create competition in the weight room. But I also think the weight room can be a place where girls compete against themselves and support each other. So what do? We make sure that we talk about it explicitly. And we also, as far as the social media stuff goes, I encourage my athletes to take breaks from social media. I know they may never do that, or like actually delete the app on your phone for several days and don't use it. even if they don't do it now, I'm hopeful to me saying it over and over that one day they'll give it a shot, right? But the other thing that we do is the 7-day challenge, hitting the unfollow button. So I tell my girls, especially when we're talking about body image and social media, to go through and write down if they want all of the like fitness influencer type people that they follow, and then unfollow those people for 7 days, right? You're not going to take a full social media break. Write down these people, unfollow them for 7 days. At the beginning of the 7 days, look in the mirror and be honest about how you feel about yourself, how you look. 7 days from now, after not having looked at all of these people constantly posting pictures of themselves wearing barely any clothes, stand in front of the mirror and ask yourself how you look, how you feel about how you look. And I guarantee you it's going to be different. I guarantee you it's going to be better. And I can say that because I've done it. And that has been my experience. And I know that for our male strength coaches, this might be a harder conversation, maybe one that you don't want to have. If that's the case and you have a female assistant or another female coach in the building that's also a teacher that a lot of your female athletes are familiar with, I think it's worth bringing them in and having this chat with them about these things. We also try really hard to focus more on what our girls are capable of doing than on how they look, right? This body, your body, allows you to deadlift 315 pounds. And guess what? If you wanted to look like so-and-so over there, she can only deadlift 135 pounds. So like, what's your pick, right? Your body allows you to play your sport in this way that you wouldn't be able to do if you looked differently. And we focus more on PRs and other markers of self-improvement, and I'll talk about that again in a second, but if you want to hit the next slide. I do want to share this video. You can keep it from playing for just a second. This is Ilona Maher. I don't know if you guys, she got pretty popular during the Olympics last summer. Cool. And she came out and started talking about like body image and how she is not your typical like fitness model looking professional athlete. She's a bigger girl and how she's comfortable with that, but has also fought with herself in terms of self-image and body image. And so I think this video is pretty powerful.
I will say that I don't think I ever fully hated my body. Maybe I didn't understand why it looked the way it did. I had so many moments of like me crying to my mom, like, why do I look like this? Why am I bigger? I was a bigger girl, and why do I look like this? Yet I'm so fit, and I run some of the fastest times, and I'm one of the best athletes, and yet I don't look like that girl who's much skinnier than me. So I think I never understood, but I also, because of sports, I could do so much in sports that I loved my body. I loved what I could do in that. I was like one of the top athletes in pretty much every sport I played. So it's been a constant uphill struggle, sometimes downhill, and I'm still learning because I know that, you know, when I'm done playing sports, my body's gonna change. When I have a baby, my body's gonna change. So I don't think it's ever just a linear straight line like, figured it out, love my body, it's great. It's gonna be just a constant up and down.
And so that's what I'm going for, right? Like I want our girls to be proud of what they can do with their body more than concerned with how they look. Lastly, don't get me wrong, I still want to teach my girls to compete, okay? I want them to be like, want to crush and annihilate their competition. Don't get me wrong. But we keep competitions and results in-house and metric-free. So I don't know if y'all follow me on social media, but you'll see that I post about PRs, but I don't ever post what the PRs are. I just post who got them. And in the weight room, we pay attention to numbers, and I want my athletes to know what their numbers are, vertical jump and 10-yard fly mainly, and you know how much they're lifting, and know when they got a PR, like they should be aware. It's not like I'm telling them not to pay attention to their numbers. But you won't see I won't ever post their numbers on social media. And then things like our speed board, right? Like who's at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 miles an hour, whatever. That does exist in our weight room, but it will stay in the weight room. Like that's not gonna go on social media either. And I think for me, and especially at my school with how highly competitive it is and cutthroat academically, like I don't need to amplify their concerns about being in some ranked order or list. I just need them concerned about being better than they were yesterday. And then we're gonna get to their potential regardless of if I have compared them to someone else or not. Girls may be less likely to coach each other and hold each other accountable verbally. Why? Guys, because mean girl culture is real, okay? It is real. Speaking up is hard. It's something I still think about as an adult female. When and how should I speak up and how should I say things so that I don't just look bossy or like I'm trying to be in charge of everybody. That's especially real in high school. And I think these rock stats are really telling. 67% of girls report that they don't say what they're thinking or disagree with others because they're afraid that they won't be liked. And then additionally, 59% of all girls surveyed, they reported that they like being in charge, but more than half said they're afraid to lead. I think that word's really important. They're afraid to lead. Isn't that what we want our athletes doing? They're afraid to lead because they don't want others to think they're bossy. And so that's real for our girls, and it's real in the weight room. So they're gonna be shocked. What do? We talk about it, okay? We talk about how to be a leader and how to talk to others, how to give constructive criticism and how to take it. We have short conversations around that. And instead of just saying to a whole team or a group, hey, hold each other accountable, make sure everybody's doing every rep of every set, every exercise, doing the right form. Instead of throwing that out to everybody, because if I throw that out to a room of girls, it's probably not gonna happen. We already have predetermined lifting groups, as I'm sure a lot of you do to improve efficiency. Everybody knows who they're lifting with every day. And so I ask them, I'm like, within your group, your lifting group, if you're at a rack with someone, like you're responsible for holding them accountable. You're responsible for helping coach them. Give them reminders. Don't stand there and watch somebody do a half kneeling landmine press with the wrong knee up. Like say something, right? So those little coaching cues and giving constructive criticism and also giving encouragement is more likely to happen and be cultivated in those small groups, in those lifting groups. And that is where I challenge our female athletes to be coaches and to hold each other accountable in that space. Our female athletes may be underfueled more often than our male counterparts. I think that it's probably a pretty prevalent thought that girls struggle with disordered eating more than boys. I know that that's the case at my school. And so I did a little research to make sure that that wasn't just a myth or a thought that I had or old wisdom that has been disproven, because I know that we have plenty of male athletes who struggle with disordered eating and being underfueled, whether it's purposeful or not. But I did some research. I found one great systematic review, meta-analysis, looked at like 21 different papers. It was looking at specifically elite youth athletes, but it had like slightly less than 8,000 kids that we're talking about here. So extrapolating a little bit, assuming that not many of our athletes are elite as defined by the paper. But regardless, when looking at risk and protective factors of disordered eating, being a female was the most cited risk factor. And not only that, so girls had a higher prevalence of disordered eating, and often it was 2 to 3 times that of the prevalence seen in boys. So I do still think that while we need to pay attention to disordered eating in male athletes, it is still much more prevalent in female athletes. Why is that the case? We've talked about how much of an impact social media has on girls' body image, and I'm sure that it does on guys as well. But it's so easy for a girl to go find what an individual perceives as like the perfect body, right? She finds some girl she wants to follow, and she's like, oh my gosh, I want to look just like her. And what does Instagram do? Gives her like a dozen more girls just like her to follow, right? So social media plays a big part. I also think there's definitely a misconception then that eating less is almost always the way to look more like that girl, or those girls, those women, whoever they're following. Peer pressure and groupthink, we see this a lot at my school. So our dining hall, y'all, is like it. If you don't like food in our dining hall, you don't like food. I don't know what to tell you. We have so many things to pick from every single day, and we have entire tables of girls. Like I said, almost my whole entire school is athletes. We have entire tables of girls that are sitting there with a dining hall plate, eating some saltine crackers, and that's it. And we see it more in the middle school than the upper school. And me and our school nurses, who are wonderful, are constantly working together to try and change this. They circulate during lunch, have conversations with these girls privately later, etc. And they've had girls tell them that, it kind of started with one person, and now it's everybody, and they don't want to be the only person sitting there with a plate full of food eating. Like, how sad is that, right? So some of it may not even be that girls want to eat less or want to be skinnier, but that peer pressure, groupthink, desire to be liked and not be made fun of, to fit in, is real. And then there's a huge lack of knowledge about what proper fueling actually does, not just for a growing body, but for an athlete. This is a quote that was included in the ROPS report. This little girl is in 6th grade. She said, even though I don't have social media, I am still influenced by things. I think a lot of girls my age are developing body image issues and developing eating disorders at a young age because we constantly see other girls on social media who are skinny and gorgeous as heck, and a lot of the time what we see isn't realistic. And what's most sad to me about that, she's a sixth grader, she understands that even though what she's seeing isn't realistic, that it impacts her in a negative manner and that it's impacting her friends in a negative manner, and she probably feels kind of helpless to do something about that, right? So what can we do? We're going to talk about it. We're going to set aside time for a thorough discussion about nutrition with our female athletes, with our female teams. I always do one team at a time, right? Treat them like a family, a group, make it smaller. I don't just bring in like 200 female athletes to chat with. We try to do it in teams. We close the weight room doors. We bring our jump boxes in. We make a little classroom out of jump boxes, sit around it and chat. And these discussions are also going to include talking about self-image and social media. And also we always talk about RED-S, energy deficiency syndrome, and for our girls' menstrual cycles and how important it is to have one and how healthy it is to have one and all of those things. So again, maybe a conversation that our male strength coaches don't want to have. If you can bring, like I said, a female coach in who maybe also teaches in the school, who can have these conversations, who's comfortable doing this. I have had some like really amazing, I feel like, breakthrough conversations with my middle school athletes, especially, who just like, they didn't know the 3 macronutrients. They didn't know that food was fuel. Like, you can just see them like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And so a couple things that I think have helped our athletes change their view of eating, talking about fueling versus eating. So if you're an athlete, you're not just eating to eat, like you are fueling your body, you're fueling your performance, giving them that language to use, right? So they're sitting at the lunch table and some girl's like, you're gonna eat all of that? And she's like, no, I'm fueling my body for practice today, right? Like, that can make a difference. And then secondly, talking about carbohydrates as rocket fuel. This is totally a Dr. Jackie Buell thing. As far as I know, Dr. Jackie Buell, I gotta give her credit because she was a registered dietitian, professor at Ohio State with Ohio State Athletics for a very long time, and she served our team at Sports Performance for a very long time, coming out to schools and giving talks like what I'm talking about. So we miss her, but Dr. Jackie Buell was the one that gave me this. She's like, talk about carbohydrates as rocket fuel, and you'll make them a lot cooler for your athletes, because we know that carbs are often demonized in our society. And then lastly, we do performance plates. We are fortunate to get some registered dietetics interns who are in the master's program at Ohio State. And one of the jobs I kind of gave those interns was each day go to the dining hall, make a healthy, balanced plate of food. You get to eat it, but take a picture first, put it on our social media page and label it, right? So if you're an athlete and the dining hall is serving X today, what should your plate look like to fuel your body? And anybody can do this, right? If you got whatever cafeteria you have, go make plates and show your kids, like, who think there is no good option for them as athletes, what a good plate looks like. There are a bunch of those on my social media page, and I put my handle at the end if you want to take a look at those. So you're like, wow, thanks so much, Shelby, for sharing all this really positive, feel-good information about our young athletes. But I do want to end with positive, good information, and that is that ROX, after their 2017 survey, did a girls in sports report using all the data that they had collected. And they found that when compared to girls who do not play sports, female high school athletes are 14% more likely to believe they're smart enough for their dream career, 11% more likely to say they're happy the way they are, and 16% more likely or less likely to want to change their appearance. Overall, girls who play sports in high school report stronger peer relationships and friendships. They enjoy going to school more, and they report lower levels of sadness and depression. I think that the weight room can positively impact every single metric that the ROX reports looked at and collected data on. And in fact, I think that it's one of the only places outside of that ROX specific programming that they do where that's true. The weight room is a really powerful place, and it's our space, so let's use it. Thank you all. I'll take questions or even just thoughts. I did use a couple resources. Well, the ROX reports I can send you links to, but they're pretty easy to Google. They're really cool resources to look at, especially the Girls in Sports report. It had a lot of good stuff in there. The study I used I can send you, and then also if you're someone who is like maybe I should start talking to my girls about menstrual cycle periods, stuff like that. I have no idea where to even start. There's a couple resources I can give you as well if you're interested.
This is probably more like just girls also isn't in general, but do you have the girls sign up beforehand so you know which ones are in, or it's like, hey, coaches are giving me lists and this is who should be there? How does that work?
We have a sign up system. Yeah, so I know if I have like a new athlete coming in, and sometimes I do like kind of create groups, and I kind of know if I have a girl who's gonna come in and I know she's gonna be by herself and she doesn't have like friends in there, I can kind of know, like I have a couple older girl athletes who are really comfortable and like fit them in. Yeah, it's challenging. I have a 6th grade girl, and then the only other girls in the weight room are like 10, 11, 12th graders, but our kids are like really great about taking the younger athletes under their wings and helping them out. So yeah, we do have a sign up process. All right, thank you.